Coming to you from deep inside the bowels of a great big empty. Get ready for another episode of The Home Defense Show with Skip Coryell.
And that was Golden Glenn, the official announcer of the Home Defense Show, and I'm your host, Skip Coryell, author of 22 books, Marine Corps veteran, founder of the Second Amendment March, proud father of 7, grandfather to 20 and counting, and as a special bonus, I'm also madly in love with my own wife. My priorities in life are God, family, and country, in that order, and I hereby promise to never compromise in my convictions. I may go broke, but I'll never go woke. But before we get too far into the show, let's thank our sponsors, United States Concealed Carry Association, shootingclasses.com, Center Shot Indoor Gun Range, and Trinity Training and Security. Joining me today is one of my favorite guests. I guess we should call you a contributor because you're on so much. This is Deron Boring, an attorney from the great state of Ohio, the Buckeye State. Deron, welcome back to the Home Defense Show.
Well, hey, thanks for having me back. It's always a joy. It took a while this time. I think we've both been busy and running every which way.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's the way that it is. Summers are especially busy, even though I wish they weren't. But that's the way that it is.
I'm with you. I've been running 500 miles an hour, and I literally sat at work today thinking, how's it almost July 1st already? It's
I
crazy.
know. It's terrible because it's like June 20th or 21st is like the longest day of the year. And it's like all through the winter, I live for, June 21st, the longest day, because we're getting there. Then it hits and it's like, oh man, now we're in the countdown to winter now. Do you realize that?
I heard somebody give how many days until Christmas the other day, and I wanted to throw something at them.
Yes. I mean, I like Christmas as well as the next snowman, but I tell you, after Christmas, it's like, okay, spring, it's time
Yep.
for spring now.
Yep, I'm with you, and I like winter. The older I get, I like winter, which is I think opposite from everybody else. But no, I'm not ready. It just feels like we're just getting started, and it's the downhill slide already.
Oh, you got that right. All right. Well, hey, today what we want to talk about is we want to talk about the Fourth Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America. And I'm just going to read it, and then you are going to talk about it, and I'll ask. Well, I'll try to ask intelligent questions. Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. The Fourth Amendment. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue, but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. What does that mean?
Well, so this is, first of all, from a historical perspective, you look at this in relation to what really the British Crown was doing to the colonists when they were here. Really, honestly, let's be blunt. The entire Bill of Rights is because of what the Crown did to the colonists here in the U.S.
Mhm.
And so this is really here just to protect people from an overbearing government, which really 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, without even a second of preparation, we could talk about all those and say that. But really what this is this is stopping people, or stopping the government from having too much of an intrusion in your personal life. And really beyond that, to stop false charges or, bad evidence basically being used against you, in that. And, really there are a couple of keys out of that. And I always pick up on the words probable cause in that because it always is the question, well, what is probable cause? And I always sort of term probable cause as more likely than not a crime was committed, or more likely than not there is evidence of a crime. And, the way I always describe that is just, I don't like putting percentages on it, but if you were to look at a needle from, 0 to 100, probable cause is that needle that's just pointing just a little over 50%, showing that, more likely than not, you've got evidence of a crime, which is really what boils down to getting a warrant or anything like that, from the government. For them to have the right to search you in a lot of cases, it's a probable cause standard.
So, probable cause, a cop has a pretty good idea or suspicion that you have committed a crime or are about to commit a crime, and there's some type of evidentiary support. Is that fair to say, or not?
It is, and it has to be the idea of probable cause is that there has to be a higher quality of information and some sort of a reasonable suspicion. And that's really what it takes to get a warrant is, a higher quality of information and a reasonable suspicion on that, which I have to differentiate that a little bit because there are really two standards we're talking about here. There's reasonable suspicion, and reasonable suspicion is the lower bar. For instance, if police are going to stop and frisk you with what's called a Terry stop, really that just takes reasonable suspicion in that case, meaning that there's some sort of a specific articulable fact that the officer believes to be true that they can stop you, search you, by a frisk or whatever to stop that. The difference, though, with probable cause is the idea that there is more evidence, and that obviously with more evidence comes the ability for the government to do more.
Hmm.
Again, get a warrant. And really the presumption is, constitutionally speaking, that any search by, law enforcement, by the government, is considered unreasonable without a warrant. And then you start getting into the different exceptions, like, a vehicle exception. And the reality of it is you have less protection in your car. And if an officer in that case has like a reasonable, specific fact that they believe that they could articulate, they can search your car with a lower standard than what they could with a warrant, for instance.
Hmm. That's okay. That has to do with exigent circumstances. Is that correct?
Not even necessarily that. It's just the idea that really the idea with the automobile exception is that if they have some sort of belief, and I'm sorry, I misspoke. They still have to have probable cause to search your vehicle even without a warrant, but they don't need a warrant. Part of that is because the idea is that it's a mobile thing. It's traveling. So again, I just want to back up. I spoke that incorrectly. That they have to have probable cause to search your vehicle, which is more than a reasonable articulable suspicion. But again, they don't need a warrant, and it's because it's mobile, and it's because it's something that people can use to hide a crime or on the way to or from committing a crime, that they have the ability to search that without a warrant.
So let me just throw an example at you then. I'm driving down the road. I get pulled over. Cop comes up to the door, and we go through the regular spiel, driver's license, proof of insurance, registration, and then he sees that there's an empty holster on the seat next to me, and he asks, "Well, is there a weapon in the car?" And I say no. And then he says, "Well, that's a holster right there. I need you to step out of the vehicle. I'm going to search your vehicle." Is that a reasonable suspicion?
I don't think so without other evidence of a crime, because again, that probable cause requires, some sort of belief that there's a crime. And I don't think a holster in and of itself is evidence of a crime. And if it's a state that doesn't require you to disclose to the officer, I guess that may make the difference. If it's a state that requires a disclosure to an officer, let's say prior to the interaction, like Ohio's old law. Ohio used to require that you disclose to the officer that there's a firearm in the car if you're carrying. So in that case, I'd say maybe a holster would be, at that point, possibly probable cause for a crime, or evidence that a crime exists. But I don't think a holster in and of itself, really, there's even case law on the book that says that having a concealed carry permit is not in and of itself probable cause to search a car. Because what was happening in some of our lovely blue states, that just because you had a permit to carry from another state, they would instantly assume that you were in violation of their carry laws in their state, and that was enough probable cause to search the car, and it on its face isn't.
Yeah. Well, you and I we're thinking the same way there. I've heard horror stories about people getting pulled over and being searched. One was a guy got pulled over, and his vehicle was searched because he had an NRA sticker on his bumper.
Mhm.
And that was here in Michigan. That person, that cop ended up getting fired
Yeah, and
for doing that.
that is not probable cause by any stretch on that. Now, for you, as I was doing my some reading and research on this beforehand, I was reminded of you now have an RV. Am I remembering that right?
Oh yeah, we have a school bus we converted into an RV. Yep.
So here was something interesting I was reading as I was looking into this when you reached out to me on this, that there's actually an RV exception that I didn't know about. That while the RV is driving down the road, it's treated like a vehicle, which means they have to have probable cause to search it, but can search it without a warrant. But the second you park it at a campground and it becomes your residence, at that
Mm,
point in time, it requires more than that, meaning a warrant, because at that point in time, it's basically your home
yeah.
in most jurisdictions at that point.
Okay. But if they pull me over, I'm on the side of the road,
Yep.
then it's a vehicle. As soon as I pull into the campground, I'm hooked up to the sewer and the water, the
Yep.
electricity. It's like that's my house now.
That's a warrant at that point in time versus that. And really, I guess the big picture on this is there are less protections for you when you're out in public. So your car, your person, what have you on that versus your home, the surrounding area around your home. The protections on that are much higher that do require probable cause, judge signing a warrant, so on and so forth in that case. To again, keep law enforcement out of your business without, again, that more likely than not thought that there's crime, evidence of a crime going on within your home.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I've heard stories about how cops will pull you over. They'll ask to search your vehicle because that's another exception, right? Is consent.
Correct.
Okay. Um, for you personally, and then also for you as professionally, do you consent to searches to your home or to your vehicle?
I would never consent to that because the second you consent to that, you lose all right to contest evidence later. So even if you could eventually prove to a court the evidence found was because it was done so without probable cause, you lose your right to even make that argument if you consent to that.
Hmm.
So the technical legal term for that is they call it the fruit of the poisonous tree. If they got evidence, law enforcement, prosecutors, what have you, have evidence that should not have been gained because there was no probable cause, the second you consent to the search, probable cause doesn't matter anymore. They have the right to it. So, I've told my wife that I never expect law enforcement to come to my door. But if they do, you can kindly ask them to come back with a piece of paper that says they have a right to be there. Don't let them in to just start searching. And, there's nothing going on in my house that's illegal whatsoever. But I just want that extra layer of protection that if, you get railroaded or, and again, I don't think that would happen, but you just don't want to take that chance of opening the door to where you don't have a right to contest it later.
Yeah. Well, let's be very blunt and be very honest. Just because you're a police officer doesn't mean you're good at your job. Okay.
Correct.
I mean, and that's whether you're a teacher or a cook or a babysitter. There are good cooks, good babysitters, bad babysitters. There's good cops, there's bad cops. The vast majority, thankfully, are good cops, and they're not going to intentionally violate your civil rights.
Yep.
But every once in a while, you get one like that. Like you mentioned in the blue states,
Yep.
it's that I think that seems to be where it happens most often.
Well, and here's another example. This one happened to a coworker of mine, not an attorney. It's one of our assistants in the office. Got pulled over recently and suspected of drunk driving. Not the case whatsoever, but swerved outside of the line. They made a pretextual stop, stopped her. She gave consent to search her car. And they searched her car from top to bottom. And I asked her the question later. I said, "Wait, you consented to that?" "Yep." "Why would you do that?" "Well, I didn't have anything to hide." And the next question I asked her, I said, "Wait, you just bought that car, right?" "Yep." "Have you looked under the seats since you bought it?" "Well, no." And I saw the light bulb go on over her head, and she went, "Oh, crud." Because she very well may have been right. She didn't do anything wrong. But, what happened if who she bought the car from, the dealership didn't clean it well? And let's say there was a bag of something stuffed up under the seat somewhere, and they found a bag of meth or something else under the seat that now she's in possession of.
Hmm. Yeah.
She gave consent for something to find that, they didn't find anything. But, I asked the question, he went, "Oh, crud, you're right. I didn't do anything wrong,
Well, you
but
know,
I don't know what could have been in the car."
it's funny that you should mention that example because for me, I started refusing consent, probably about I don't know, 15 years or so ago. I bought an old pickup truck from someone like on eBay or whatever, a newspaper article. And I went up, I got the truck, brought it back down, and I drove that truck for over a year. Okay. And my wife finally said, listen, I am not going to ride in that vehicle until you clean it because I'm a bit of a scuzzball when it comes to my vehicles, right? And so I'm in there and I'm cleaning it all, and I opened the ashtray for the first time in over a year. I don't smoke, so I never opened the ashtray. I open it up, it is jam-packed full of marijuana roaches. And I thought, oh my gosh, that, I mean, what would a cop pulls you over and he said, oh, can I search your vehicle? Oh, sure, sure, go ahead. And he opens that up and he sees that and he's going to
Yeah.
ask you about it, right? And then
Yep.
you're going to say, oh, well, hey, I'm sorry, I bought this truck like over a year ago. I don't smoke. That's not mine. He's not going to believe me.
It's funny. I watch a show on the weekends about, they follow police officers around live, and it's amazing how many times you hear the excuse, "These aren't my pants."
Yeah,
The people have
that's
drugs
right.
in their pants. So I
That's
don't think
right.
this that isn't mine doesn't work. Really, and to be somewhat serious, I always say that's not mine works about as well as I was in fear for my life without anything else to back it up. Those
Yeah.
two statements on their own mean nothing to an officer because they hear it 500 times a year.
Yeah. And most of their clientele lie to them. I mean, that's just not most, but
Yeah.
the criminals certainly lie to them. They
Yep.
don't tell them the truth. But
And it was so bad. I kid you not. When they pulled her over, they checked her toothpicks for
oh,
drugs. They swabbed a toothpick for drugs. I am not
wow.
kidding.
What state was this in?
Ohio,
Ohio?
Northeastern Ohio. Absolutely, they did because they believed her to be on under the influence of something. And I gave her a hard time and I picked on her. I was like, why on earth would you consent to anything? I know you weren't doing anything wrong. I mean, not a chance.
Hmm.
But again, brand new car. You have no idea what the previous owner did with it.
Yeah.
And you don't know what was, were they making meth in the back of it to where a swab test would turn, you just have no idea. And you basically forfeit a lot of your constitutional rights the second you consent. And the reality of it is, to her, point, I wasn't doing anything wrong. I was sober.
Hmm.
I was fine. I wasn't texting and driving. I wasn't this. I wasn't that. I had nothing to hide, which is what a genuinely decent person generally believes about themselves. If I have nothing to hide, have at it.
Right. Yeah. And a lot of people, most people care about their reputations. They care about what other people think about them. And so,
Hmm.
and some people, you get pulled over by a cop, right? So a guy
Hmm.
walks up, he's got this huge honking gun on his hip. He has the power over you. He stopped you. You didn't want to stop. He has power
Yeah.
over you for the duration of that stop. You're really nervous, and he's
Hmm.
asking you, well, hey, we've had a lot of drug traffic in this area. Can you help me out here? You don't mind me searching your vehicle real quick? It'll just take a minute. You don't mind, do
Hmm.
you?
Yeah.
And what are you going to say? And you say, well, yeah, sorry, sir, I do mind. Um, well, you don't have anything to hide, do you? Well, no, no, I don't. I'm just in a hurry. But that's like a lot of people, most people, in fact, they give consent when they're asked.
They do. And, and again, I hate to get back to my deadly force, instruction on that, but I tell people, it's generally speaking, if you believe you did nothing wrong, you talk like you're a kid that just got his hand caught in the cookie jar, even if you did nothing wrong to law enforcement, because you're trying to justify your behavior and you want a free pass immediately. And what's the easiest free pass? Sure, you can search the car. I have nothing to hide.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, I was talking to another one of my lawyer friends And he told me, he says he has this client, um, and he's a career criminal. He's represented him 14 times now, and the guy, he has never been convicted of a crime, even though he's been guilty of all of these crimes. He'll call my friend, and say, "Yeah, I got arrested. I'm in jail. I need you to come and get me." And
Hmm.
my friend will say, "Well, what did you tell the police?" And he say nothing. I didn't say a word. He said, "Okay, I'll be right there, and you'll be out in an
Yeah.
hour." You know,
Yep. Yep.
so it's sad that you can't be upfront and honest, but
Hmm.
you really can't.
No, and again, sometimes it's not even what you did, just that example. And just one other thing I just thought of while we're talking about this. The other one, and I haven't talked to an officer that's done this, but in the era of cell phones and texting and driving, you know that they actually cannot search your phone without a warrant. That there is case law out there that they can't even if they have suspicion of you texting and driving, but they can't prove it, they can't say, "Let me see your phone."
Mm,
Again, if you consent and you hand it to them, that's one thing, but they can't just say, "Well, I have probable cause to search your phone. Give it to me." Unlike searching a car where probable cause without a warrant is enough. The idea really with that is there's so much of your personal information on a cell phone
yeah.
that without a warrant, they can't touch it.
Well,
Um,
yeah. I
so,
mean,
uh,
all your financial records, all of your,
yep.
your personal text messages, everything is on there.
Yeah. So, and I guess that's the other thing. And again, I don't distrust police. I think I have a pretty good relationship with most law enforcement in the area, but I'm not just going to hand you my cell phone because at that point in time, again, even though I have nothing to hide, why am I going to open the door for them to make a case for something that's not there? Well, you were texting and driving, this, that, the other when you weren't. Again, you need a
Yeah.
warrant to prove that, in my opinion.
Well, and isn't there, I forget what it's called. There's like a theory that says probably at any point in your life, you are committing a crime, but you just don't know what it is because you don't know all of the different laws. And it's like, so you hand them your cell phone and say, "Okay, go ahead and find a crime that I'm committing right now." That's
Yep.
basically what you're doing.
You are, and to some degree, even if they had did it with probable cause without a warrant, it still has to be something somewhat rationally connected to what they're looking for. I mean, if they found evidence of tax evasion on your cell phone while they're checking you for texting and driving, I think there's a chance that wouldn't stick anyway. But that's really besides the point of the whole thing. Again, I guess I don't like to give up constitutional rights. And I think if you do it in a kind and a respectful way, I think most officers, even if they're annoyed because they either A, have to let you go without searching your car, or B, keep you sitting there while they go get a warrant from the judge, which, is going to be minutes to hours most likely getting that warrant. And by minutes, I mean 30, 40, 50, 60 minutes or more. So I think at some point they're going to have a real good reason to keep you. Otherwise, I think they're most likely going to just set you loose and let you go at that point.
Yeah. Well, I've heard of times where the police have detained them. It's like, okay, you're not under arrest. They just detain you either in the back of their car or in your car. And then they bring in like a drug sniffing dog.
Mhm.
What's the legality of doing that?
Basically, searching the car on the outside isn't really a Fourth Amendment search, but they can't really prolong the search waiting for a dog. So I guess the question is, can they search the outside of a car? Again, with probable cause, they can. If they think there are drugs in it, they can run the dog around the car. And it's not really a Fourth Amendment search, but they can't keep you there for 3 hours because somebody has to come in off shift to do that. So again, there's a fine line on that where if it's a lawful traffic stop and they have reason to believe that, they can run the dog around the car.
Hmm. All right, let's say, okay, you've been pulled over. They asked to search the vehicle. How do you tell the cop no? What's the best way to do it?
I think you do so in a kind manner. It's respectfully, I can't consent to that, or I would like to exercise my constitutional right to refuse. Don't argue with the officer. Don't tell them you're wrong. I think being confrontational. I think respectfully, officer, I would decline consent. and just leave it at that. Fewer words. The
Okay.
more words you have, the more you're going to inflame the situation of, no, get a warrant. That's bad. Come back with a warrant. That's bad. Respectfully, I would exercise my constitutional right to require a warrant and just leave it at
Okay.
that.
All right. Now let's say the off chance you get like a Barney Fife, or you're just some unreasonable person, or you're in a blue state and they really believe that, hey, you're from Florida, so you must have a gun in that car. And they ask for consent. You say, I'm sorry, officer, but I'm going to exercise my constitutional rights, and you do not have consent to search my vehicle. And he says, all right, step out of the vehicle. Come on up here. Put your hands on the hood of the car. Don't make any sudden moves. I am going to search your vehicle. What do you do?
Let them do it at that point in time. You're never going to win an argument on the side of the road. I say that for anything I teach students, anything I tell clients. You are never going to win that argument on the side of the road. It can be the worst violation of your constitutional rights. I would argue, let them do it. That is what your day in court is for later. And there is this lovely little procedural thing that your attorney can do later called a motion to suppress that basically says this evidence was gained without probable cause, without a warrant, whatever is wrong with it. And if the evidence is obtained wrongfully, it excludes all of it from the trial. And at that point in time, good luck proving your case. They find, just use my colleague's example there. She didn't give consent. They decided to forcefully search the car anyway when they really didn't have probable cause that they could articulate. And they find a bag of meth under the seat that wasn't hers. If you win a motion to suppress on that, the evidence that that bag of meth ever existed never comes into court. And at that point, you can't prove your case.
Okay. Well, let's step it up a notch. They find a dead body in your trunk. Does that change things?
Well, it does. Well, I guess it doesn't change the facts on that. If again, the officers cannot articulate probable cause. And I think, if they have reason to suspect that there's a crime committed, I hate to say this, and again, especially a less than honorable officer is going to construct, probable cause later in the report that we searched the vehicle based on probable cause. Here was what, led to our suspicion that there was, evidence of a crime in the vehicle. So to some degree, I think you're left to the honesty of the officer. Why did they have probable cause? But, again, in today's wonderful day and age of body cams and dash cams and everything else, if you did absolutely nothing in any of your behavior that shows on, a video screen from dash cam or body cam, it may actually be hard to show probable cause. You didn't do anything wrong. You were driving, normally and intelligently and not driving in a suspicious way. You may still be able to beat that if you could show they didn't ever have probable cause to search the vehicle in the first place.
Okay. If a police officer violates your civil rights, and it's just blatant, get out of the vehicle, I'm going to search your car, even though you told me not to. They go in there, they trash the car, rip off the door panels, put the door panels in the back seat, leave them there, and then don't find anything and say, okay, well, you're free to go now. Is there can you sue them in like federal
You
court?
You can. You basically for being what's called a bad state actor. And what that means is it's somebody acting on behalf of the state, the government, that if you're caused damage by that, and sometimes the damage is just the violation of your constitutional rights, you could sue them. And again, you have to be able to show in that case that they lacked any probable cause, they lacked any suspicion whatsoever to do what they did. And at that point you could, and, again, it depends on the jurisdiction. In some cases, I think that's incredibly hard to prove. I think in other jurisdictions, they roll over and just give people settlements on that one as an apology. And I'd even say that probably happens more so in the anti-police jurisdictions. I'm seeing a lot of anti-police jurisdictions right now settle cases that should never have been settled, that they just, want to make the family feel better. So we're going to give them money, even if, the police were justified in their actions.
All right, that makes sense. I'm just really careful when I'm on the road and I'm driving through a blue state. I'm really careful about that. almost to the point of being paranoid. It's like I'm a reserve police officer, and technically, I'm pretty sure I can carry, even though we don't have reciprocity with this state. But I just choose not to do that because one, it's a gray area, and two, I just don't trust blue city police officers. That's all.
And it's just not worth it. I couple years ago drove from Pennsylvania to Virginia, and you cross Maryland for, I don't know, not even
Yeah.
2 minutes, I think. I got out of the car, took the gun out of the holster, unloaded it, separated it, locked it, got back in the car, started driving again. And by the time we were in Virginia, my wife looked at me and went, all that for that?
Yeah.
And I said to her, I said, all well and good that we cruise through in 2 minutes, but what happens if I get rear-ended? A deer jumps out in
Yeah.
front of me. They have some sort of a Maryland State Patrol checkpoint,
Yep.
and something happens and I can't ditch the firearm. I said, then you're married to a felon. It's just a lot easier. While I disagree with their laws and have many derogatory names for what I think of the government of the state of Maryland, I was paranoid,
Yep. Maryland
pulled
just,
everything. It's not worth it.
yeah, they don't work and play well with others. They just don't.
I don't want to be a felon. And, at some point in time, following the law is difficult because we have so many laws. But when it's that simple, to do that, do what you have to do, comply with the laws of the state of Maryland, and just move on with life. And it's a lot harder for something to stick to you.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. All right. Well, Darren, we're about out of time. Any final words for people?
I guess just exercise some common sense and caution. And unfortunately with common sense says, tell the officer no, even if you believe you did nothing wrong. And, and be kind, be respectful, don't be argumentative. Don't just say, I want my lawyer, I want a warrant, just be a decent human being. And I think for the most part, most decent officers are going to respect that.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. All right. Well, before you go, please tell people how they can find out more about you, Darren.
Well, you can find me at 1791 Training on shootingclasses.com. I have some classes coming up here on actually Ohio concealed carry law and Ohio deadly force law that are going to be done virtually. And you can find me, actually, I'm getting ready to start doing some range classes again. It's been a couple of years since I've done some instructing on the range, and I'm going to get back into that soon.
All right. Fantastic. All right. Well, Darren, thank you very much for being on the Home Defense Show today.
Thanks, Skip. I always appreciate it.
All right, folks, that about wraps it up for this week's show. I've had a good time, and I hope you have too. Please don't forget to thank our sponsors, Center Shot Indoor Gun Range at centershotgunrange.com, shootingclasses.com to help you find the right trainer for your needs, and the United States Concealed Carry Association. For all your self-defense needs, go to uscca.com. All right, I've written 20-plus books, and they're all available on amazon.com in paperback, ebook, and audiobook. This week, check out my book, We Hold These Truths. It's a geopolitical thriller novel. I think you'll like it. And if you want training from me in person, then check out Midwest Tactical Training at shootingclasses.com. Please join us again next week for all your home defense needs. In the meantime, God bless and stay safe.
Thank you for joining us this week on The Home Defense Show. Now, get out there and protect the ones you love. We'll see you next week with more of the best.
Bye-bye, boys!
Have fun storming the castle!
Firearms training should be easy. Instructors can focus on teaching and not worry about all the complex paperwork and management behind the scenes. Just pull the trigger and let us do the administrative work. Welcome to shootingclasses.com.
At Center Shot Gun Range, we are passionate about training. Don't know where to start? We offer a 1-hour new shooter seminar to introduce you to the world of firearms and help you find training opportunities specific to you. Concealed carry, home defense, firearm safety, AR-15, private one-on-one training, custom training, or maybe you're on a security team looking to protect your church or business. We even offer weekday morning and evening classes. Center Shot Gun Range has you covered. Start your journey at centershotgunrange.com.
Hey there. Yeah, you. It's time to level up your skills. Check out shootingclasses.com and explore a wide range of training options. With more than 50 types of classes to choose from, Beginner to advanced, concealed carry to medical training, online sessions, and even non-live fire courses, there's something for everyone. Just enter your zip code, use the filters to narrow your search, and find the perfect class for you. This site has all the details: instructor bios, class info, requirements, available dates, and the option to register, all in one place. It's that simple at shootingclasses.com.
In today's world, safety and preparedness are more important than ever. At Trinity Training and Security, we offer comprehensive training for your peace of mind. Whether you're obtaining your concealed pistol license, mastering CPR and first aid, or engaging in scenario-based training, we've got you covered. We look forward to working with you in one of our classes or bringing the class to your church, school, or business. Need security for an event? Protecting your assets? Our team provides private security, close protection, media crew escorts, high security terminations, and more. Always with discretion and professionalism. With Trinity, safety is more than a service. It's a commitment.
Avoid danger, save lives, and keep your loved ones safe. If this sounds good to you, you sound good to me. And I'd like to help you do those things. Avoid danger, save lives, and keep your loved ones safe. If you're looking for more excitement in your life, we have nothing to offer you. But if you are a thoughtful, responsible, nonviolent man or woman, we'd love to teach you what to do if something crazy happens. More importantly, we'd like to teach you what not to do. We currently have over 500,000 members. They are doctors and single moms and firemen and grandmothers and veterans and Democrats and Republicans and members of every faith. But the one thing they all have in common is that they know exactly what to do if something crazy happens. When you're with one of our members, you are safe. Our members know how to de-escalate situations. They know how to calm things down. We are the United States Concealed Carry Association. See what we're all about at usconcealedcarry.com.
Discover the little-known backstory of the U.S. Concealed Carry Association at usconcealedcarry.com.